Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of Where I Went Wrong. And in this edition, I'll be doing Where I Went Wrong, UFC Vegas 41, or you can say UFC Fight Night, Costa versus Vettori. So I went with 8-5-1 on this card. That's actually still pretty decent. But as far as my recent track with my last 4 or 5 weeks where I was like 70% or higher, which is real phenomenal to be honest. That's phenomenal. Last card was 70%, 7 of 10, 70%. So solid card. Probably really should have went 8 of 10, but it was some questionable judging on one of those fights, so it should have been 80%. But it is what it is. So this card, definitely my percentage dropped a lot, but still decent. So I went wrong, but still a decent card. But I hope to improve going forward, or at least rebound from this card that was my first card that was less than that 70% or higher for that last 5 weeks or whatnot. But to this card, yeah. So I definitely think I had some real actual mistakes. I feel like the last couple cards, I don't really had no true mistakes. There was a couple things I could draw from and say I could learn from this, learn from that. But it was like really just, really pinching for, trying to find a little mistakes in what I did. With this card, I feel like I made a couple big mistakes, but ultimately, again, not too many big mistakes. And also, another thing I would say for predictors, bettors, or whoever it may be, people that follow the fights or anything in life, well, I'm gonna stick to predictions, but I ain't trying to make this so broad. But when it comes to predicting and betting week by week by week, you can't get too held up by, oh, this fell one time. Even like I say, some things you get it so right to a science, it'd be a layup. And then some stuff happened, dodgy decision, some stuff changed, injury, somebody break an ankle out there, something happens, and then the fight shifts, it don't go your way. Or maybe you make you make a decent read, but it just don't play out that way. But you can't get so caught up by every single little mistake or every fight that don't go your way, or every this don't happen, or this don't lock like it's supposed to lock, or this don't fall through like it's supposed to fall through. And then every single week you try and completely change your predicting style. The best thing you do, you got a good system, stick to that system. You're gonna have your weeks that gonna be off, you're gonna have your good weeks. When we start finding like you stick to your the way your work, you stick to your study, you stick to what you're doing and like what has gained you success and like, got a good consistency, stick to that. Like I could have easily at points say, oh, I'm gonna change up this, try to revamp my whole predicting style or how I'll go about studying fights. And then like I would not had that 5 6 week or whatever amount of stretch where I was just like killing it, like straight killing it, like destroying these cards. And like I'm not saying like I didn't destroy this school. I definitely didn't destroy it. I did good, I didn't destroy it. The last couple cards I destroyed it. But like last five cards probably I destroyed it. But you're gonna stick to it. You're not gonna really get that. You're gonna be inconsistent. You gonna have these good moments, you got these bad moments, but you can find a good path, like a good system, stick to it, follow, expand upon that system, but don't try to drift every single time you have something like you start to see stuff don't fall through. It's MMA at the end of the day. It's not as predictable as some other sports. It's not boxing when they're fighting like putting these guys that's 400 amateur fights against these guys that's 0-20 and only been boxing since like 2 months and have zero talent for boxing. You got guys in the UFC where everybody to some extent belongs there, or at least they match up better. But a lot of talking. Now I'll get to where the actual card and to where I went wrong. So first fight, I went wrong. Second fight, I went wrong. So it was Jonathan Martinez versus Xavier Lazishvili. And I think I took this fight. I think I took Lazishvili. He came in on short notice. That was something to knock against him. His lack of competition, I already knew that because he was supposed to fight Jack Shore, and I picked Jack Shore against him because Jack Shore, has solid wrestling, offensive and defensively, and has a much cleaner striking. So stylistically, he didn't really present Lazishvili any area to really get an advantage over him. So he was gonna have less experience, and I felt like Jack Shore was better everywhere. So I was like, I already knew that Xavier Lazishvili's experience wasn't all that great. Most of the competition was mediocre, but he still came in and he put on a good show. It still was a very tight matchup, but he lost. That was simple as that. I thought Jonathan Martinez coming off that knockout loss to Davey Grant was going to factor against him. I thought that Lazishvili would be able to mix it up more and have a little bit more success with his wrestling in a very tight fight and would be able to edge it on him. But Martinez showed great improvement in his wrestling defense. I never thought he had like super terrible wrestling defense, but I thought that Lazishvili would have some success with his wrestling. But it was really limited. Like matter of fact, it was zero success with his wrestling. So that simple fact just changed the course of that fight. But still a very close fight, even without that success. Not saying like, oh, it's nothing to take from that fight, but you definitely got to put more respect on Jonathan Martinez, especially when he comes against, fighter that's more wrestling heavy. Now that you've seen that improvement in his wrestling defense. As far as Lazishvili, I don't feel like his stocks dropped that much, but I do feel like he gets some valuable experience that maybe will carry on to his next couple fights. But it's not the worst loss coming on UFC lose to Jonathan Martinez, but he also shows, where he needs to work on And I feel like going forward, both these guys are people to watch on and maybe put money on in the future. Like especially Martinez, you gonna go against, especially a one-dimensional wrestler. He gonna destroy those people. Or if it goes against, well, unless it's Marab, but Marab's working on strike. But either way, Jonathan Martinez showing great improvement in his wrestling defense and looking solid out there. So good performance from Jonathan Martinez. I didn't really, like I said, I avoided putting money on that fight. I knew it would be a close fight. I just thought the wrestling would be a bigger factor leaning to him, but it was not like a case where I was so confident in that pick there, like, oh, that's a money pick. That's like, nah, it was a very tight match. No matter if I leaned to Martinez or leaned to Ladisvili, I leaned the wrong way. I mean, I leaned the wrong way, but ain't gonna knock myself too much for that. But good performance from Martinez. Decent performance in the loss from Ladisvili. Looking forward to both of them fighting their fighting futures. And then the next fight where I went wrong again was Marcos versus Livina Souza. And I'm just gonna say it right here. I'm never gonna feel bad about picking against Marcos. I'm never gonna make me feel bad about Marcos. I'm not gonna make myself feel bad. I'm not gonna make anyone else make me feel bad about picking against Marcos. She's what, 11-11 now. Coming this fight, she was like 10-11 or something. So horrendous record, horrendous track record, horrendous inconsistency. She had some decent wins on her career and her record, and she had some decent wins that amateur on the Ultimate Fighter, but very inconsistent, very limited, not really developing like that. And I feel like even at the course of the fight was starting off looking like I thought it would look, with Renata Souza just throwing her around, control on the ground, being a better grappler. But Souza I think this more so showed what stuff about Souza than it did about Marcos. I guess I said Marcos, you're gonna fight a not fully motivated, middle of the pack, or not no zero urgency type fighter with questionable cardio like Souza, a questionable cardio grappler like Souza. She could eke out a decision on them because they're gonna fade and she's gonna keep going. She might not be all that great, but she's mediocre and she could keep going. Where like like the Energizer Bunny to an extent when she's fighting competition that don't really got decent cardio or can maintain a decent pace or don't have that shutdown control like they need to, or that control's not as tight as they need to, she can eke out a decision over. And that's as simple as what it is. As far as Renato Souza, I would say Lavina Souza, she just showed like her striking showed that it's big holes in her striking. Matter of fact, Marcos was the better striker, so I can see just about anyone in the women's MMA division, in this division, outstriking her. Grappling wise, I can see anyone with that hold a decent pace, like outlasting her and beating her for the most part. Outside like the lower tier competition, I'm not saying Marcos is the very bottom of the division, but she's very close still to getting cut. But she's still better, maybe a lot of these entry level people that's their standout entry level talents. But again, I ain't gonna feel bad about picking against Marcos, and I would highly likely probably pick against her if they give her anybody any bit decent in her next fight, anybody any bit decent against Souza. So it's like I'm probably gonna have almost basically 2 lock picks involving these fighters. Like whoever they fight, I'm pretty much locking in whoever's fighting them, depending, unless it's like say another Souza tier fighter versus Marcos. And for Souza, I don't know who you gonna be. Maybe a woman with zero grappling. I guess she can tap her out real quick, or maybe a woman that just green. I don't know. I'm like matter of fact, I'm just very low on both fighters. This fight didn't make me high on Marcos and then like increase my appeal of her or how I feel about her. It's like I already knew that about her. Matter of fact, how she easily got taken down several times, even by a tired Souza. Just saying, like, what she fought Pinheiro again. Pinheiro would have a field day throwing her around again with all those judo throws. So probably even finish her this time, like unlike she was doing the first time. But yeah, a lot of fast talking, but not how either one. I would probably like to lock pick whoever fights them again in their next fight. And then what was my next pick? Jamie Pickett versus Loriana Staropoli in the middleweight division. This is as far as I'm not skipping over the picks I got right, but even though those first 2 picks were back-to-back losses, but then I had like a little streak, and then I lost, then I went on a big streak. Yeah, but either way, Staropoli versus Jamie Pickett, another pick I ain't gonna feel too bad about, because Jamie Pickett, we've seen he's just a fighter that so easily accepts the back foot and so easily allow his opponents to control the momentum. And even this fight, he really allowed Staropoli to control the momentum, and I really feel like it wouldn't have been a bad decision if you scored that for Staropoli, to be honest. Am I saying it would have been like a lock pick? Oh, Staropoli got robbed. It's not even close. It was a trash fight that could have went trash either way. Like both fighters were trash, and one of the trash got their hand raised. That's as simple as what happened. I'm not saying they're trash in life, but that performance from both guys was trash. Staropoli had struggled with the reach, and all he could really do is throw a couple punches, get on the inside, and try to tie up Jamie Pickett and try to hug him and drag him to the ground. So a guy that has questionable wrestling and wrestling defense turned into a wrestler and that's all he could do. That's the best game plan he could come up with against Jamie Pickett. And Jamie Pickett a lot of times has allowed Star Poli to control the pace of the fight, throwing shots and clinching them up. It's the fact that Jamie Pickett landed a little bit more shots, maybe like 2 more shots per round, and I got like 1 more takedown. So it was a very close fight. But I really feel like most of the fight was Star Poli just hugging him against the cage. So I feel like Star Poli like could have got the decision. Nobody really landed nothing super flush or super heavy. Ultimately, it was just a very boring fight that Star Poli, for the most part, controlled the momentum of. Without no one, it was like both guys just realized they ain't that good, but they're gonna do what they can to get a decision, and they just both didn't fight with any real intentions of finishing or setting anything up, or that could look potentially fight ending or damaging. It was pretty much turned into I don't even call it chess. That's not. It wasn't that high level to be called chess. It just turned into a snooze fest, hug fest, and pick guy's hand race. So Star Poli should get cut. If he don't get cut, I'm picking against him again. I mean, I picked him this time, and I picked against him. I picked Dolis against him. Then I leaned to him just because of how how Pickett is so willing to allow his opponent to control the momentum. I feel like that would be enough volume in this controlling that pace, and Pickett more than going to be welcome to allow his opponent to control the pace on him or dictate the pace on him, which he did in this fight, but he did just enough to eke out a decision. So Poli should be cut. Star Poli should be cut. He's on like a 4-fight losing streak now. Nothing against him, but you on a 4-fight losing streak, you should be cut. Especially all coming off a terrible performance like that, you should be cut. Pickett probably gonna hold on to his contract, but they probably gonna feed him to some prospect or feed him to somebody individual who need a win. So probably gonna be like a lock pick for whoever fights Pickett next. And Poli should be outside the UFC. I keep calling him Poli, but Star Poli should be cut. Nothing against him, but he should be cut. And middleweight is definitely not for him. At middleweight, he looks lost in every aspect. Wrestling look lost, striking look lost, especially when we go against a guy who has size and reach over him. Just look lost out there. So Poli should be cut. Again, I said his name, Poli. Star Poli should be cut. Marco Polo should be cut. But that's 3. It was the 4th one. The 4th one, this was a big momentum shift. Cause after the Star Poli wrong one, I went on like a 4-5 fight prediction streak. And then out of nowhere, Caceres pulls off that huge upset. And I like Alex Caceres, so props to him. This is my only lock on the card was Sungwoo Choi. And that pick, I mean, it did make me mad, but at the same time, I was happy for Caceres. I've been watching for a long time, and I like his style, like his image, like the fact that he was called Bruce Leroy and stuff. I always thought he was like cool and stuff, like good fighter to watch. Wasn't always consistent and stuff, but you know, I was always happy to see him win, always happy to see him do good performance. I wanted him to do well in the UFC, and he managed to turn his career on, from where he started off in the UFC to now. And now, especially, he'll come off this big win and riding a good winning streak. So I'm happy for Alex Caceres. I was definitely mad, definitely gripping my hand, gripping my fist, and making a fist and stuff like how this happened. But it's no fault of Alex Caceres, or it's no fault of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but Sungwoo Choi goofed out there. That was supposed to be a lock pick. It was like really no path to victory for Caceres, to be honest, outside of Sungwoo Choi doing what he did. Like he was so aggressive trying to go for that finish. Like he found it, like hurt Caceres. Then he tried to finish him off with that knee. That gave Caceres some time to recover. And then on top of that, after that moment, he just started headhunting. He wasn't really setting shots up. He was doing the same exact combinations over and over and over and over again. Even a blind man, even what Helen Keller could have seen what he was doing. Loading up these that same combination and also drawing overhands without setting them up. And then eventually Caceres' caught a read from Caceres kept having them missing and wide. And then eventually Caceres just timed by the cage, avoided his overhand. Then Choi hit the cage, was on the cage when he missed. Then Caceres just took his back, and then from that point, just started to, had him from that point. They took his back, choked him out. But it took some time. It wasn't instantly, but took his back, worked for that choke, found the choke, tapped him out. So this is a goof by Sungwoo Choi. Can't really say, I could learn so much from that, or it was just a bad pick. It wasn't. It was bad fight IQ from Sungwoo Choi more than anything. But at the same time, a loss is a loss. A wrong pick is a wrong pick, no matter by inch or mile. And it was a wrong pick. Simple as that. So, like I said, I don't really have much I could learn from that. I could definitely pick, I don't know, maybe pick Caceres and fights where I said pick Caceres and fights, depending. But I feel like in the next fight, he's going to get a real high level fighter, like a real consistent, like a real cream of the crop fighter. I'm not saying Soo Choi is a bad fighter, but he's definitely not cream of the crop. Even going to this fight, I didn't think he was cream of the crop. I just thought stylistically the fight favored him heavily against Caceres, unless some goofy stuff like this happened. But you can get like a real cream of the crop fighter who ain't going to make those same goofy decisions out there, ain't going to headhunt as much, and really set the combination of that and really be in control of the fight and not get caught up in the fight and trying to caught up in their head hunting like Soo Choi did. But yeah. So I feel like, I mean, he do very well, but eventually I think at the top of the division, that's where he's gonna keep running to the ceiling when he get to top, to the people that's the upper echelon of the division, he's gonna keep running to that wall. I don't think he's gonna really ever be able to overcome that. But definitely did a lot well for himself, and all props to Caceres. Cool dude, glad he got the win. But Soo Choi definitely goofed, but not a whole lot to learn from that fight. But maybe Soo Choi, depending on how he goes against maybe a grappler or maybe a more well-rounded fighter who does have grappling, not just a one-dimensional grappler, but a well-rounded grappler. Could definitely see him. He did get Lucid. What's his name? That was a well-rounded fighter, so it's already been out there. But I just thought Caceres didn't really have to take no offense. But again, I'm staying on this pick too long. But this is ultimately not the pick I didn't feel the worst about. That's one. The first two picks would Lazvili is a bit of stuff to look bad about. I mean, to hold some accountability for the Lazvili fight. The Marcos fight, I ain't never going to feel bad about picking against Marcos. Like I said, the Star Poli fight ain't gonna feel bad about the fight. The fight was a toss-em trash fight, and Star Poli just didn't come through on that one. So I ain't gonna feel bad about a fight. Both fights were basically trash, but one trash to try to be dig more deep or something, I guess, or do just a little bit more. But yeah, Marcos ain't gonna feel too bad about ever. The Pickett fight ain't gonna feel too bad again. Probably gonna lock whoever fight Pickett next because they probably gonna put him in there with a better competition, an actual middleweight or maybe a former light heavyweight or something like that. So probably gonna pick against Pickett in the next fight. And the Choi fight, like I said, ain't much to really say too much about. Ultimately, I feel like the biggest thing about that fight was that Choi goofed out there. But who else? What am I gonna say about him? Yeah, Choi goofed. That's as simple as that. Choi out there just flat out goofed. But real, again, props to Caceres. He took a legal knee, stayed composed, never choked, didn't ask for no easy way out. Then Aljamain Sterling it and came out there, tapped that man out. So Caceres took advantage of that situation, took advantage of his goof, and made him pay for it. And now to the final loss on the card was Jessica Rose Clark versus Jocelyn Edwards. So she did so bad that it's making me forget her name. But I don't know. I was I definitely was not lock confident in Edwards, but I was sneakily very confident in Edwards. Or maybe not all that sneaky. It wasn't that sneaky or wasn't that. But I was pretty confident in Edwards. And I just overlooked a lot of things. I just underestimated the wrestling of Jessica Rose Clark. Also just thought Edwards would improve on some things, but again, you go start to reach and stuff. She was bigger out there, probably stronger, but technique was not really improved upon, and wrestling still was a very big glaring hole in her game, and she was made to pay for it. That's as simple as that. I just don't think Edwards came into this fight as prepared as she needed to be, and Jessica Rose Clark took a easy win over her. Really, she was able to score takedowns, a controller for large portions of the rounds, and get out of the decision. So for this card, this is the pick I feel the worst about picking, especially with as much confidence as I did have for Edwards. And it was just played out exactly as most people would expect Jessica Rose Clark versus Edwards to play out. She would take her down, controller. I would really look a little bit deeper and then ignore so much stuff. That would have been pretty much probably a lock or very high confidence for Clark because it played out just as much as most people expected it to. So for me to reach and kind of dig Edwards an underdog, I thought it'd be a decent pick, but it has not come through. Her technique was just superior, and Edwards did not. But yeah, that pick paid out exactly. But going forward, unless Edwards improves upon something, I can't really say she's going to improve upon that in her next fight. But you go in there with a decent wrestler or decent well-rounded fighter who can take it to the ground. I'm definitely going to pick against her next fight for Edwards. But they give her a fighter that's kind of iffy on the grappling and just a striker and maybe a little bit undersized and won't get no power. I feel like she got to work them, out strike them, and probably out grapple them. But going forward, that's definitely going to be an avenue. Rose Clark, still feel, I'm not I'm going to feel higher for her. I just feel like she took advantage of a younger fighter, a greener fighter, and took it to the mat. So I ain't gonna really feel super high on Jessica Rose Clark either. She had a path to victory and she acted on it. So she go in there with a, like I said, a more fleshed out experienced fighter. I think she's gonna lose again. She's gonna run into that wall once again. But she goes in there with a fighter where has the deficiency in wrestling or deficiency in striking or deficiency in experience. I'm gonna pick Rose Clark, but again, I feel like she's gonna get put in there with a more fleshed out fighter, a more experienced fighter in her next fight, and I feel like they're gonna give it to her. That's flat out is gonna be. But for Edwards, I feel like they need to take her down a notch. I feel like she has a lot of talent, and they could build upon her instead of trying to rush her ahead. For now, you see her lose these 2 fights in a row. Take it slow, build upon her, and this division needs more women. Women that may need more women in there, and she could be one of those prospects. But build upon her. Rose Clark, I just feel like you already know who she is. She's not gonna really evolve any much more. But you put in there with a decent woman, a decent experience, well-rounded fighter. Most likely she's gonna lose her next one. But I guess keep her around for a couple more fights and match her accordingly, or maybe use her as a test like they did for this fight, and it showed that Edwards just ain't there yet. That still needs probably 2-3 years of developing, especially in that grappling department. But it is what it is. But that was my worst pick. Actually, as far as I can't really feel too bad about any of the picks on this card. Some picks stung, like that Choi pick stung, but this pick was like, I would say negligence. That stings the most. The other, like I said, the other 2 or 3, I don't really care too much about, but the Choi and the Edwards fight, those fights stung. They definitely stung. But the Edwards fight is the fight that most learn. I can't really learn too much from the Choi fight, too much, but I can learn a lot from the Edwards fight. It's like very clear. It's not a whole lot to really do no much research. It was all out there, but there's a lot to take from that fight, especially with Edwards following her career. Joseph Rose Clark, I feel like I already got an intel on her, but got a smidgen more respect on her as far as how they match her up, unless they give her like a step up in competition or put her back to where where she is in the division competition wise. But yeah, that's my predict. I mean, that's not my prediction, but that's my thoughts for that fight. And then let's go jump around to the main event. We had Vettori versus Costa. Went to decision. Costa. Went to decision. Vettori got his hand raised. I picked Vettori by decision, so a perfect pick. Did it go exactly how I thought it would go? It did not. It was a very competitive fight. As a matter of fact, Costa actually won the 5th round on many people's cards, and I think the judges' cards. So the fact that Costa would even go 5 rounds and have his best round pretty much like in the 5th round, that's something different. But then again, Costa did not cut no weight. He pretty much picked the weight class, chose the weight class, didn't have to drain himself, so he had energy in the 5th and probably took some steroids and stuff. So yeah, he was able to go 5 rounds and actually be competitive in all 5 rounds and not gas out after like the 2nd or 3rd. Vettori didn't have as much success with his wrestling. He didn't really have no control time, and neither did Costa. So pretty much a striking matchup. And Vettori just simply outworked Costa through most of the rounds. But a very fun, exciting fight. Probably should have been fight of the night, but they just didn't give it to him out of spite for Costa not making weight. And another thing, if Costa would have made weight, after he made 185, he probably would not have that same cardio. And probably would have gotten walked down even easier. Probably would have been tired in those later rounds. Might have been stopped, or would have been a more easy decision. But yeah, Costa did what he had to do, but it did not pay off for him. Now he's at light heavyweight, and I feel like I don't kind of see him doing too much at light heavyweight, but who knows? He's still young enough, still gonna make some improvements. But yeah, good fight from both guys though. But don't like how Costa went about it to get that, to come in and miss weight so big and not feel any bit of remorse for doing it. And jokes on him, he lost. So it is what it is. He got his first fight at 205. He cheated and still lost. Karma, instant karma. Now a couple other fights to look at. Gregory Rodriguez versus Jun Young Park. Exciting fight. A fight I got right, because I already said all the ones I got wrong, so another fight I got right. Went 8-5-1 again. Maybe could have been 9-5. Oh, let's look at the Grant Dawson versus Rick Glenn fight. But let's look at the Jun Young Park and Gregory Rodriguez fight. A solid fight. I feel like it still exposed both fighters in a little way. What's his name? Jun Young Park is not as durable or is once expected. Gregory Rodriguez definitely got a pacing issue. Like it's like a constant stay in his face. You can start seeing wilt down. I just feel like he was actually on, fading, but still managed to pull that victory out of out of a rabbit's head. Like he was fading and Park was in his face, touching him up. But the thing is, Park was not, using his defense as much. I kind of said that the man relies on his chin so much. He can be a bit hittable. And even though he had Rodriguez hurt and was in his face, he was too comfortable in that area and too comfortable taking shots to the point he got hit. And then, like, at that point, he was just on still. I mean, not on still. He was on skates. and then Rodriguez was able to walk him down and finish him off. But if Park would have, worked on his defense a little bit, minded his defense a little bit more, that probably been a case where he had Rodriguez in a bad spot and could have finished him off. But Rodriguez looked good up until he started fading, but was able to take a bad situation, turn it into a good situation and get the win. But good performance from both men, but Rodriguez showed some heart and was able to dig deep and pull that one out. Park on the side got to work on his defense. Rodriguez on the side got to work on his pace and cardio, maybe work on his control, where at his point he doesn't have to use as much energy trying to control a person. Just work on maybe just locking down that half guard and just wearing on them, smothering on them, and not spending so much energy so that cardio does not become an issue. And also go back to work on, man, matter of fact, he did work on his defense. In the past, he would have been up there square as a mug, not clinching up when somebody swinging on him, not moving his head. But his head movement looked much improved. Still not where, optimum, but definitely great improvement in his head movement. And that did also play a factor and allow him to survive to eventually find that moment and catch Park and finish him. But impressed by both guys and looking forward to both of them fighting like their fighting futures. I don't feel like anyone take a big leap back, but Park definitely took a lesson in that one. Work on that head movement and don't be so comfortable using your chin as your defense a lot of times. Keep those hands up, move that head. Rodriguez need to work on his head movement, so does Park. But yeah, good performance from Rodriguez. Another one, Rick Glenn versus this was a draw. Rick Glenn versus Grant Dawson. I knew this fight would be competitive. Matter of fact, it wasn't all that competitive early on, but that third round, Rick Glenn completely turned it on him and it turned that to a 10-8 round. I just feel like what can I really say for Grant Dawson? Probably work on that striking, work on his cardio. Don't get lax out there. Like, don't be so caught up that you're riding a 2-round streak, like, have 2-round momentum. You gotta keep that going through 3 rounds. So for Grant Dawson is to keep that going for 3 rounds. Rick Glenn maybe work on his takedown defense, but Grant Dawson is a top tier talent, but that just show that Rick Glenn is here and he's not playing around. I feel like if they fight again, I'm picking Grant Dawson, despite of how that Rick Glenn would have the momentum in a rematch. I still think Grant Dawson is going to take a lesson and is keep that pace he kept from the first 2 rounds and carry into the third round and should be able to ground out a decision over Glenn. Will it be easy? It won't, but I feel like if they rematch, it's going to lean to Grant Dawson. So he riding those first 2 rounds, but it's got to be better at sealing the deal or at least maintaining that through 3 rounds. But impressive performance from Rick Glenn. And definitely showing that he's a factor in this division. He's not here just to be here. He didn't just have one fluke win. Like, Rick Glenn always been a sneakily good talent. Is that he never got the respect of a talent. He's been a very underrated fighter. And now he's starting to, come here and collect from all that, the respect that he deserved in the past and collect there on everything he wishes. But good performance from both guys. But yeah, Rick Glenn is definitely a guy to watch and got to look out for in the division. Grant Dawson just got to work on finishing his race out there, or at least staying composed through 3 rounds and not fading in the third round. Like, you can't fade at the end of the finish line. And you turn a fight that probably would have been an easy 30-27 or 29-28 into a draw because he got lax out there. What else fight? Richie versus Oliveira. And as I said in the prediction, I thought Richie might get like a 3rd round submission. It was not a 3rd round submission, but she did grapple and control the whole fight. But Richie, I just feel like she didn't look all that great out there. She fought she fought a mediocre opponent, did well, but that opponent was a mediocre opponent that weakest areas was her grappling, and Richie controlled the whole fight, but could not get no finish, could not really land no super effective damage. So I feel like Richie's undersized, and you match her against anybody that's really deserving to be in the UFC, and they're going to destroy her, in my opinion. Unless matter of fact, they deserve the UFC. Their grappling should not be that terrible. Like, should have a decent enough takedown defense. Their striking should be better than what I've seen from Richie. Richie did not look good, to be honest. She looked good against Oliveira, but it's more you look beyond Oliveira. She did not look good. She looked mediocre. So undersized. She's probably gonna be making OnlyFans soon, but because once they start putting her with good people, she's gonna be collabing with Paige Van Zandt and some other people. But yeah, Richie did not look great. Oliveira should not be in UFC, and Richie maybe should like ask for atom weight class. I feel like that might be her better weight class if they do add that. And then another fight was David Onama versus Mason Jones. Phenomenal fight. But I just saw, again, I predicted, I thought I thought Onama had a weakness in his grappling. I thought Mason Jones would take it. His pace and pressure would start to wear him down. And also the fact that I did see that hole in his grappling or his wrestling. And I thought Mason Jones would take advantage of it. And that's exactly what we did. But Mason Jones looked solid, phenomenal. And David Onama didn't look bad, half bad himself. I just think he needs to work on that wrestling defense, work on that wrestling offense, and he'll be a problem in this division. Let's continue to work on what he's doing with his striking and improve upon his grappling and get it near to where his striking is. And the guy will be a problem in the division for just about anyone. At least probably until he start getting to the top 20, top 30. But the lightweight division got like 150 fighters, so I definitely could think he could quickly be in that top 50, 60, probably within the next year or two. And then probably after that, year 3, 4, maybe start working his way up to top 30, top 15. This guy could be a factor, but he definitely got to work on his wrestling. But Jones he's already looking like the full package. Mason Jones is. And looking like he could probably be in the top 30, top 40, probably by the end of this year. Well, this year already over, but I'll say by the end of next year, I would say. Being top 30, top 40, maybe even higher. But David Onama, no need to rush himself. Got a lot of skills, a lot of talent. Just got to work on that wrestling, and he'll be a factor for sure. And that's really my take on it. I went 8-5-1. I made some questionable picks. I would say really the only true one I feel like I made a big error on was the Jocelyn Edwards. And again, that's a case of reaching. You're looking at a young fighter versus an older fighter coming off an activity injury. You're going for a young fighter, and you are reaching like saying, "Oh, they'll work on this, they'll work on that." And you can't really reach and say they'll work on that until they actually seen it. So that's a lot of times how I predict fights. I say yes, this and yes, that, but until I seen it, I can't say it. And I did not see Jocelyn Edwards really work on her wrestling. Matter of fact, her last fight, her wrestling didn't look all that great. Like a big glaring weakness in her game. Now she will improve upon it. And again, reaching. Until I see it, I can't really predict it until I see it. And it didn't improve. And Jessica Rose Clark took advantage of her. So my biggest mistake, and really the one I could draw the most knowledge from, is that fight. But again, 8-5-1, decent enough prediction week or card, but stuff to learn from it. And that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.